Once again this year at General Assembly, there will be two ways that we make decisions together. The first will be familiar to anyone who has been part of one of the courts of the church, like a presbytery. This first way we make decisions is by a majority of vote that we arrive at by a show of yellow voting cards by commissioners. You will receive a voting card when you arrive at General Assembly. It looks like this. Once the recommendation to be decided is before the court and up on the screen, the moderator will ask who is in favor and who is opposed. This is signaled by raising the yellow cards. If it's a close vote, the clerks may be asked to count a standing vote. Now, our church, along with many others, has been exploring another way of making decisions. It's called consensus-building decision-making, and it's a process where a large group can do just that, build a consensus. There are goals of this process. One is to hear through cards and discussions as many views and voices as possible, especially those who are not so comfortable speaking at the microphone. The process steps away from a binary yes-no debating model and encourages exploring options together as a means of generating faithful outcomes. It seeks to create a respectful, welcoming environment where typical strict rules of debate are given over to working together toward a decision that is acceptable to as many people as possible. That's what building a consensus means. Instead of the yellow yes-no voting card, you will use blue and orange cards to signal how the consensus is building. Here's how it works. Now, this is just a brief overview. There will be more orientation on this at the assembly. Once a recommendation is on the screen, the moderator will ask you to show cards to indicate the level of consensus. You raise an orange card if you're fine with the recommendation, or if you can live with it and are ready to move on with this as a decision. You raise a blue card if you'd like to say something about the recommendation. That can be something in favor or against it, or if you have a question about it, or if you're just not really ready to move on with this recommendation. It's not just a yes or no, though that is a part of it. Think of it as your sense of how close you are to being part of the consensus on the decision. If you are close, you raise an orange card. If you're not there yet, you raise a blue. The moderator will invite those with the blue cards to speak, and often after someone speaks, the moderator will test for consensus on what has been said by asking for another show of cards. And if the consensus is high, lots of orange cards, that might mean the recommendation is perhaps changed along the lines of what the speaker said, or it might affirm the original recommendation if that's what the speaker said. Or it might be that we wait and hear more voices and test for emerging consensus later. Now, this is a process that can be a little difficult to describe, but something that will come naturally. Most sessions operate this way, they just don't use the cards. Assembly Council has used this process with the cards for several meetings now for all their decisions. They have discovered that more people participate, and they've been successful in arriving at all their decisions by consensus. Reaching consensus does not mean that everyone necessarily fully agrees. It does mean, though, that everyone believes their view has been heard and they can live with the decision. Or if they really can't live with the decision, they are prepared for the body to move on and they reserve the right still to a dissent. There are more details about this in the Book of Reports, and there will be more orientation on Monday morning.